So we've been talking about models, and by this point you probably know and you have an idea of how models work. Okay, now that we've kind of graduated from past that, now let's kind of talk about how we can use these defaults and all these properties here. And we can really get into how Backbone is kind of structured. Okay, so you've organized your code now. And down here we've kind of talked about how we can conceptualize models in terms of people. For our example anyway, you can, when you're doing object-oriented programming, you can actually conceptualize these objects however you want. You could make this a car, right? You could put, number, you could keep the name. It could be a Toyota by default. You could have number of wheels. You could have a button for drive. Could have like a function down here. You could say, or maybe this could be like the ignition on, right? Ignition on, right? And the ignition's not on right now, so when we turn it on, we could probably say this start the ignition, right? Boom. And down here, we could just say our start ignition function is down here. Okay. So, here when you read a lot of other people's work, and especially when you go to developer conferences, you'll always see this thing, do some cool stuff, right? You'll see that a lot. I actually don't really like it, but I'm just pointing it out here. Usually, when you see a developer say, oh, do some cool stuff, probably means they don't really have a great imagination. I admit I don't have that great of imagination too. I actually have to stress and think about what kind of examples I'm going to give to you. But, that's just being the case. I think this is something you would see, right? Like if you were to go to maybe a Facebook developer website, and then, or Instagram or something like that, the lead developer in charge will probably say, okay, define your defaults, and then define your default properties. Maybe you're using Backbone.JS, maybe you're not. Define your initialize function, maybe do some cool stuff. And they're just kind of previewing out the language for you. So that's just something that all developers do. It's just the convention. But like I'm saying, you can do whatever you like. You can define your object however you like, and then you can make them. Just like we were talking about. You could say this is a Toyota. New car, and then down here, name Toyota, right? And, I guess this start ignition, if I were to run it, no, I kind of went through that fast, so there might be some messy stuff that comes up. Okay, so it's not doing anything. It's not doing any cool stuff because I haven't said anything, oh, turned on. Vroom, right? Okay, so if I do that now, oh, we need our semicolon or JS bin's gonna freak out. Vroom! We're good. Got a new car, right? It's good. So, like I said, you can make these whatever you like. They're models. You figure out what you would like the model to be when you do the web development, right? So coming back to WordPress, this could be really a tag, right? And then down here, you would create your functionality for a tag. What does it do? What are the defaults? What are the methods that go along with this tag? And then you build it out. So now that you know that, let's kind of talk about some of the more powerful features of Backbone. And one of them is the ability to set names after the fact. So let's say I created this car named Toyota, but then later I changed my name. My mind, not my name. I want to change the name. I want to change the name of this car. Maybe it's no longer a Toyota, but it's a Honda. Well, you can do that with the set method that Backbone gives you. Remember, we extended our regular object here and put in all this default information, but we still have those Backbone methods, and one of them is set. So I'm going to set the Toyota, and now I'm going to console log Toyota.get the name. I want you to realize the difference between get and set. So we'll go ahead and clear. Vroom. And now you can see it's Honda, because down here, we can prove this to ourselves. Toyota.get name. Clear it again, run vroom. Before it was a Toyota, now it's a Honda, because we set it. And you'll find this a lot in object-oriented programming. Get and set are really integral to changing stuff within a model. It's very, very important. These are very, very fundamental methods that help you make programming easier. Because if you didn't have these methods, then you'd have to go in manually and then write more spaghetti code to change up, the get and set. Or maybe you write it in here and, you have all this kind of stuff that you didn't really need to write out if somebody already else did. And that's kind of the nice thing about Backbone, that somebody else did. All you have to do is just define your stuff, the new stuff, and not really have to rewrite stuff like get and set, especially if it's a design pattern. That's a programming standard. Again, going back to our analogy, if you were a web developer starting out, or you were working with a firm that did things their own way, they didn't use any standards, and they just prefer to have some homegrown solution, you could see how frustrating it would get to have to go find, okay, well, where did they build that set method? Maybe they didn't, or maybe they didn't build the get method, whatever. By having universal standards, it just makes your development way easier. Okay, so I'm going to show you one more thing in this video before we move on. So another thing that's kind of cool is we can have our start ignition function, but we can also do something called this on change, and we're going to say, first we'll just do change. Okay, this is called an event listener in JavaScript, and I can go over that kind of later, or I can go over that in another video I can show you. For more basic, if you're not familiar with event listeners and stuff like that. But this is called this on change. And let's see here. I want to do something cool. I want to say, well, something changed. Okay, so I'm going to run my code now. Boom, turned on vroom, Toyota. Something changed. And that something changed corresponds with this set method here. Of course something changed. Something changed here. What was it that changed? Well, it's the Honda. The name is Honda now. So whenever something changes within our model, we get a flag. This event listener is kind of like a flag. Oh, it's like saying, hey, your model changed, do something. And we can do that with this method, this on change. You use jQuery, you're kind of familiar with add event listeners, or maybe the bind function. Basically, or even if you have done stuff like this on click, like from jQuery, like element.click, then do a function that, throws out a banner at you on the web page, or maybe alerts you, hello. So it's the same thing. It's this on change function, do something. Now the nice thing about Backbone is we can do something else. We can say this on change name. Now we are getting more specific here. We can say the name changed. Okay, that way we know exactly what changed. The name changed, and it's really nice because again, this makes it really, really easy for the developer to get, okay, what's going on? And somebody else, like coming in and learning this code can go, oh, okay, something changed, well, the name changed. Especially if you have hundreds and hundreds of lines of code, and maybe this is, again, hidden from somebody. Like if I'm setting and getting methods down here, I can see, oh, something changed. And I can say, oh, the name changed. We have an event listener here, and I can use it. So this is a really nice feature.